In my last video released on July 1st, I briefly talked about this cluster of low pressure which would be arriving in Europe by the beginning of this week. It came in right behind a different weather system which brought relief from an intense heat wave affecting parts of Western Europe. Initially, it just brought a lot of rain and lowered temperatures further, but as that cooler air dipped down into Southern Europe and the Mediterranean by Sunday, July 6th, strong to severe storms broke out and a dangerous sequence of severe weather began. On Monday, severe thunderstorms continued to affect Italy, but they also swept across the Adriatic Sea and struck several countries from Slovenia, Croatia, and Bosnia all the way up to Belarus. You can see the evidence of that with nearly 500 reports of severe weather across that region, most of which were damaging wind reports indicated by the yellow squares. On Tuesday, strong to severe storms affected a similar area, once again across Italy, parts of the Balkan Peninsula, and up into Russia, as a serious flood risk took shape across Poland and into surrounding portions of Slovakia and Czechia. This led into another very active day on Wednesday, July 9th, not only for severe storms from eastern Romania into Belarus, Ukraine, and Russia, but also for that continuing flood risk. Now for today, Thursday, July 10th, the area of low pressure which augmented the severe storm and flood threat is going to continue to weaken. Our attention shifts to the other low pressure area following right behind it as it produces another outbreak of severe storms from south central Ukraine up through Belarus and the Baltic states. But instead of continuing to move north and east, it starts to curve backward into Europe. We have now reached a dramatic turn of events. So why exactly is this happening? Look at the Nordic countries and Russia. A large area of high pressure is intensifying, acting as a wall which is now going to completely trap that disturbance in Europe. Now looking at Friday, July 11th, we're going to have a new upper level disturbance crossing over Iberia with some light rain mainly in Portugal, but across northern and eastern Spain, powerful storms are going to erupt and then could shift into the Mediterranean Sea and Balearic Islands. Regarding this severe threat in Eastern Europe, that low should be centered somewhere around Kaliningrad with widespread rain on the back end, some storms in the Balkans, and the real severe threat over eastern Ukraine, Russia, and especially the Baltic states. This is going to be a day to be particularly weather aware in northwestern Russia, Estonia, and Latvia. On Saturday, very dangerous storms continue to be likely from eastern Spain and southern France into the Mediterranean, as well as eastern Ukraine and Russia back into Estonia, and this time including southern Finland. Things get even more chaotic on Sunday. This trap disturbance drifts westward towards Germany, and that other cutoff low pushes east over the Mediterranean. We now watch for very serious storms across Italy and again across Russia, extending back into the Baltic and Nordic countries. In addition to that, we also see widespread shower and storm activity all around that center of low pressure. This just repeats itself once again next Monday, with the main risk of severe weather setting up from Russia into the Nordic and Baltic countries and widespread storm activity across Europe in general. But now we have a new disturbance joining the chaos. This one finally breaks through into Ireland and the UK after several days of warm and dry weather for this area, and that's quite remarkable considering what's been happening across mainland Europe. This could produce some storms as well, so that's definitely going to be something to watch as we get closer and weather models can come into better agreement. That was a lot to cover just regarding this severe weather risk, but there's some other important aspects that I'd like to mention. One thing to consider is all the rain which is going to fall. This could result in areas of flash flooding across parts of Spain, southern France, and Italy, but we also don't want to overlook the flood threat off to the north. Keep in mind that some of those areas have already received way too much rain in recent days, so the soil is already saturated. With all of this additional rainfall on its way, flash flooding is going to easily become an issue. For the areas not receiving much rainfall, such as Portugal, much of Spain and France, southern portions of Italy and the Balkan Peninsula, most of Turkey, and even some parts of the United Kingdom, eastern Ukraine, Norway, Sweden, and Finland, the risk of wildfires will be elevated. Expect noticeably warmer weather across northern Europe, and yes, this does include all of Ireland and the UK, Sweden, Norway, Finland, and all the way back to Iceland and Greenland. Part of the reason for this is going to be that big low trapped over Central Europe that we've been talking about throughout this whole video, and also new Atlantic disturbances passing by. Watch as they guide much warmer air due to counterclockwise flow way up into the north and beyond the Arctic Circle over the next several days. Here's how this could look on the actual temperature map. It's already getting warmer, but as we go through Friday and the weekend, all of Ireland and the UK is warm with highs widely in the mid to upper 20s, even reaching the 30s in spots. The same goes for Finland, Sweden, and Norway, where temperatures will get into the mid to upper 20s widely, also perhaps reaching the low 30s in some places. Iceland, as another example, could have high temperatures in the mid to upper 20s by the beginning of next week. I think that's going to wrap up today's video. There's plenty more to say, especially about what's in store for next week as this chaotic weather pattern looks to continue, so you're definitely going to want to stay tuned for further information. For now though, it's time to conclude the forecast with some featured photos and videos, so please enjoy the rest of the video.